In this video, I'm going to show off the Arcade 1 Game of the Week wheel that I created to not only organize all of the Arcade 1 Game of the Week games into one convenient location, but to also have a wheel of curated games by the Arcade 1 community that were all either voted on or nominated by the community. Of course, there are already wheels for each of the systems on here, so if you want to play Nintendo games or Sega Genesis games, you can dive into those wheels. Or if you want to add to your favorites wheel, you're going to have all of your favorite games in one location. Or you can always check out the gun games wheel or the racing games wheel, and you'll have tons of options there as well. But those wheels are going to be fully loaded with as many games as possible, and sometimes it's going to be hard to know which ones are the good ones, which ones are the bad ones, without jumping in and trying them out and doing your own research. So by having the Arcade 1 Game of the Week wheel, I have a wide variety of games ranging from classic arcade games to pinball to gun games to racing games and much more. The big advantage of this wheel compared to the others is that everything here is here for a reason. Either a majority vote from the group, or the previous week's winner gets to nominate a hidden gem or a personal favorite, or just a game that they want the group to try out and see what they think about it. We have a wide variety of gamers in the group. Some are classic gamers who enjoy their Atari or MAME the most. Others are diehard V-Pin owners who can't get enough pinball in their lives. Others are massive light gun fans. And yet others love being behind the wheel of their G29 Racing wheel. And of course, a lot of the gamers just love it all. So there's something for everyone. This theme, logo, and video are custom made by myself to match the Arcade 1 Game of the Week graphic that I make each and every week. The video is actually a nominee video that I made way back in week number 4 after I had won the previous Game of the Week, and I just wanted to make a fun video to nominate the next games for the next poll. And I thought it would be a perfect video for this theme, for this wheel. I have showcased this part in my previous Arcade 1 20TB custom PC review video, but I wanted to quickly mention it here as well, since I am going to reference these graphics when I go through the games wheel later. Each week, a poll is created by the previous week's winner. They can choose 4 or 5 games, all from one system or from multiple systems. It's up to them. Then the group votes on it, majority vote wins, and that game is the Arcade 1 Game of the Week for that week. Then everybody gets to play in that game, and the top score gets to nominate the next poll. The winner also gets to nominate a couple other games that can fall under a number of different categories, such as hidden gem, gun games, pinball games, trackball, retro games, or racing games. This encourages people to try out a lot of different games under a lot of different categories and wheels on the Arcade 1. So buckle up as I showcase the wheel from the first 46 weeks of the Arcade 1 Game of the Week. Each of the games, I found the logos, themes, and videos. Also, any bezels will also display once you open the game, if they're available. The visual pinball wheel didn't have the videos and was a pretty basic theme, so I hope to update this in a future update for this wheel. The controls for each of the games will be based on the default emulators, so whatever you have those set as, that's what they're going to be. As for the MAME games, that are 4-player games, I try to use the 4-player version of those games, so that way you can have as many players as possible. And there are certain games like Aliens Armageddon here, which is a Teknoparrot Patreon game, noted by the logo as you flip through the wheel. You will need a Patreon subscription for that, which is $5 a month. So if you pay for that, you can play that game. If you don't pay for it, you won't be able to play it. I also note in the name of the game in the lower left-hand corner, if it's a gun game or a racing game, in parentheses, because you're going to need either your light gun or your G29 Racing wheel in order to play those games, such as Batman here. I also added some little personal touches, like some additional custom sound effects as you're flipping through the games wheel, and I also added the main letters, so when you search by letter by holding right on your joystick, you're going to see these awesome classic arcade letters. And finally, you're going to notice that custom pointer as you're flipping through the games that I created based off of the Arcade 1 Game of the Week graphics that I make. So I feel like these little touches go a long way to making this a pretty fun wheel, especially if you're a participant in the Arcade 1 Game of the Week. Castlevania the Arcade is a unique arcade game that Kevin and I played on the actual arcade machine that I hope to make a future quarter challenge video on. There are a lot of great racing games on the Arcade 1 that you can play with the G29 Racing wheel. I made a separate video going through that wheel if you want to see all the games that were available at the time of that video. Only the winners and the games nominated by the winners will appear on the Arcade 1 Game of the Week wheel, but all of the games will be in the G29 Racing wheel or in their separate individual wheels where you can play them with joystick and buttons. So you have a classic game like Defender where you can get your top score, and then you have a random game that most people probably never heard of, this Demon Front. I know I never did. So when it won week 30 of the Game of the Week, I played it and it was a ton of fun. You have a modern game such as Demon's Tilt, which is a PC game, but you can configure it to use your side pinball buttons, and it's a great game. Then you got Dirty Driving, another awesome G29 racing wheel, and the list goes on and on. And here's another amazing game I definitely recommend checking out, Dolphins Blue. It should be under your Sammy Thomas Wave wheel, and it finally won Game of the Week, week number 39, and it didn't disappoint.
That was pathetic.
So you go from a classic duck hunt that everybody's probably heard of to a game that no one's probably heard of, Dynagear, which is a hidden gem in my opinion. So I mentioned earlier I made that nominees video, and the winner of that week's poll was none other than Ghouls and Ghosts for week number 4 of the Arcade 1 Game of the Week. I even made a quarter challenge video and another Game of the Week video where I showcased how many times I died during the video, so if you want to check those out on my channel, you can do so. Haunted Museum 2 is a perfect example of why the Arcade 1 Game of the Week wheel is a great wheel to include on your Arcade 1. Because I love my Light Gun game wheel, and I've played a ton of games in that wheel, but I hadn't gotten around to playing this gem of a game yet. But once Jesse added it to his gun game challenge, I added it to this wheel, and I played through it, and I had a blast playing it. This is the beauty of having a curated games wheel in addition to a straight up gun games wheel, in my opinion. And we like to feature new updates like the Philips CDI update that Kevin did when those come out to get people excited about the new games added to their system. There's also a lot of House of the Dead fans in the group, so a lot of these games have been gun game challenges throughout the weeks, and I hope to see plenty more. Lords of Thunder was another game that I had never heard of until week number 25 when Earl nominated it for the Arcade 1 Game of the Week, and it ended up winning. It's a fantastic horizontal scrolling shooter released on the Sega CD. You can select your different characters based on their different elemental powers that you can upgrade in between levels, and you can select which levels you want to go in which order. Some other great recent gun game additions to the Arcade 1 were the Lost Land Adventure, really fun game, reminds me of Dead Storm Pirates, and then you have Mad Bullets, which is a typical arcade shoot-'em-up gallery game, and it's a lot of fun just trying to see who can get the top score. You have other racing games, and of course you have your pinball games like I mentioned earlier, and if you have the side pinball buttons, you can configure those to work on all the pinball games on the machine, and it's a lot of fun. And of course, a lot of the times, the fan favorites, the heavy hitters, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Metal Slug 6, or Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, they're gonna win your Game of the Week. But that's why it's awesome to nominate these hidden gem games, such as Earl keeps finding these games, like Moochie Moochie Pork. I would have never played this game, but because it's recommended by a member of the community, to me, it's a great opportunity to play a game that I know nothing about, and in the end, I ended up really enjoying this game and adding it to my favorites wheel.
Finish him.
Punch-Out definitely deserves a very special place on this wheel, as it was the very first Arcade 1 Game of the Week winner that started everything off. And here we are, 46 Game of the Weeks later at the time of this recording, and we're still going strong. So thank you, Punch-Out. Raiden Fighters 2 Operation Helldive holds a special place in my heart. That was the Game of the Week number 3, and I ended up winning that week, so I got to nominate the games for week number 4. I have a quarter challenge video of this if you want to check it out on my channel. And this brings us to our most current week, which is week 46 at the time of this recording. Melissa was the previous winner and nominated Rambo for the gun game this week. Rambo's an amazing game. I can't wait to dive in.
Here we go.
And this brings us to the most recent Game of the Week winner, which is Shock Troopers from Neo Geo. It's a top-down shooter, you can play 2 players, and there's multiple characters you can select. It's a lot of fun. And for all the Simpsons fans in the group, there's been a Pinball Challenge, there's been the Hit and Run GameCube game, and of course you have the fan-favorite classic Simpsons 4-player arcade game, which won the Arcade 1 Game of the Week, week number 6. Kevin did a Daphne HD update pack, so we decided to do a Hidden Gems Daphne poll, and Space Ace HD ended up winning. And everyone's welcome to post their top Pinball Challenge scores on their VPin or on their Arcade 1. Either one's good by us. And here's some trivia for you. The only current 2-time Arcade 1 Game of the Week winner is none other than Sunset Riders. It was week number 7's winner and also week number 38. So it was nominated a second time by the previous week's winner, put in a poll, and the community spoke and voted it as the 2-time winner. Of course, there's new members always being added to the Arcade 1 week after week, month after month, so they must have wanted to play some Sunset Riders. And notice on the right the Patreon graphic next to the Terminator Salvation logo. That's because this game, like Aliens Armageddon, is a Patreon game, so you need to subscribe to that for $5 a month if you want to play this specific game. And the final game for this current week, week 46, is the Fast and the Furious Superbikes for the G29 Racing Wheel. As a huge Time Crisis fan, it's always welcome when one of the games gets added to the Gun Games Challenge. I also have a video on my channel discussing an affordable foot pedal option that works with the Time Crisis games that can give you that authentic arcade experience. Definitely check it out if you're interested. If you're a fan of the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot game, you're sure to enjoy this light gun game, which is based on the first game in the trilogy. Another amazing light gun game is the 2-player co-op Transformers Human Alliance game, which you can find in the Teknoparrot wheel, the Gun Games wheel, and of course the Arcade 1 Game of the Week wheel. Another fun thing you can do if you win the Game of the Week, you can nominate a game like if the Super Bowl is going on, a football game, or a WrestleMania is going on, a wrestling game, or in this case, the Twisted Metal show debuted, so I nominated Twisted Metal 2 for the Retro Challenge. That gives you an excuse to play Twisted Metal 2 again and enjoy the show.
Come get some.
You can also dive into the genre wheels, like the trackball wheel has world-class bowling, so that was a fun one to rack up the highest score on. WrestleFest is a great 4-player arcade game where you can try to win the tag team championships against the Legion of Doom. There's also a lot of fun snowboarding games like X Games Snowboarder. Take different characters, go down your different slopes, your easy, medium, hard difficulty. You have X-Men 4-player classic arcade game. And then I also have a video showcasing how to play 6 players with MAME, 4 players on joystick and buttons, and 2 players with Xbox 360 controllers. It's so much fun. 2 screens, 6 players, nothing beats it. Definitely check out the video on my channel. It's a quarter challenge with 6 players playing throughout the entire game. And then we get to the final game on this list so far, Zombie Revenge. It was a game I picked, a hidden gem. It's a cross between Resident Evil and House of the Dead. The controls are a little stiff, but it's a pretty fun game, and if I would have played this game in 1999, I would have been blown away. And here we are back at the beginning. So that's where I'm at with the Arcade 1 Game of the Week wheel. I currently have it configured for my system in particular, which with the gun games I need to plug in the Aimtraks, the racing games I need to plug in the G29 Racing wheel and click on the Start Driving in the toolkit. I also map all the pinball games to the side pinball buttons and try to map all the other games to my joystick and buttons on my arcade control panel. If others in the group are interested in adding this wheel to their systems, it'd most likely have to be modified, especially if you're rocking Sindens, because those gun games would have to link to the Sindens wheel instead of the Aimtrack wheel. And if you don't have the G29 Racing wheel, you're going to want to link all those driving games to different wheels, so that way you can use your joystick and buttons or your Xbox 360 controller. Definitely doable, but it would be a little bit more work, and Hyperspin can be a little fussy if you have multiple peripherals plugged in at the same time, so I recommend only plugging in the peripheral when you're going into that specific game and needing that peripheral. Listen for that chime, and then when you're done with the game, unplug it and make sure you hear that chime again to make sure it's deactivated now. Let me know in the comments down below. What did you think of the Arcade 1 Game of the Week wheel? Did we hit on any of your personal favorites? Did we miss any that we need to add to a future Arcade 1 Game of the Week poll? Let me know. What about some games that you saw in here that you never heard of that you want to check out? Definitely leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear it. And that brings us to the end of this video. I'd really appreciate it if you took the time to subscribe to the channel. It really impacts the channel and helps the channel grow, so it's very much appreciated. If you could give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, I'd appreciate that as well. And if you are in a position that you would like to donate directly to the channel, I do have a PayPal link in the description below, and I also have a Venmo account where you can directly donate to the channel that way as well. Thank you for all of your support. I really appreciate it. And remember, we're in the endgame now.